Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Psychics and Swears, the Ghost Stories edition. We've got a special guest, Joanfrances Boyle, today. She's the Scottish Seer. I am so excited. This is a woman who has been doing mediumship since she was a wee lass.
A wee lass.
She has been doing all sorts of other wonderful things in addition to that. She's going to be teaching us today about past life surrogacy.
Very interested in this.
And because I got so confused with that. And what's the other one where you get hypnotized and past life regression. And I was like, oh, cool, she's going to do regression. And then I was like, no, wait, she's something else. So I'm really, really excited to
I am
hear about
interested
it.
myself because we had a guest on a couple of weeks ago that did the light language, and she was talking to me
Marianne.
about Marianne. I'm sorry, Marianne, I forgot your name. And she was doing a reading on me, and she was like, yeah, your soul's like millions of years old, and you're carrying all this crapola for centuries, millennia. And I was like, oh, I'm very interested in this. I want to know where my soul's been.
We also keep hearing that we have been together through several lifetimes, which is interesting.
Yeah, so we're almost done.
That was
Sorry. Just kidding.
I love it.
Peter's actually the one who told us that he feels that we've been together for several lifetimes, and then Marianne confirmed that. Stop. So fresh.
You're a good one. That's why I held up.
There you go. But so John, tell us, because you said to me that you and I have some stuff in common. That when you were a little girl, you had spirits coming to you and stuff, and I also had that. I didn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear about your story and what happened with you.
Okay. Well, as a child, it was just natural to me. So there was nobody there to say, I had parents, I had, a brother, sisters. I'm the youngest, out of the family. And so there was nobody there to say to me, that was different, or nobody questioned it. Actually, nobody actually questioned it, which was probably good for me, because you hear of so many people being like, don't be silly, that's an imaginary friends, and don't be having any friends.
You hear the whole stories where they're like, oh, they put them in a asylum. You hear those stories.
There's all sorts of stories, especially when you're young, Holly. Well, I'm youngish. I'm 63. So it's a case of going back to my childhood. You're talking about 60 years ago. People were still being
born in the kitchen table.
Asylums and and everything else. Or
She saw it, but I didn't see anything there.
You want to maybe mute up Jeanette there for a moment, and so it's the case of, for me, I was brought up in a very religious family, so we were brought up in a very Roman Catholic family. So and things like that was not the done thing, to do.
Yeah.
So and of course, how I was seeing spirit is probably like how a lot of people see spirit, is that I understand that they're spirit because they're more or less transparent. Although I can see things, I can see their clothing, and I can see, even the colour of their hair. But it's like that pearlescent. They're kind of like, transparent. But what I also saw as a child, which I just accepted again, was that I would see their faces change.
Ooh.
And their face would change to a different face. The body would stay the same, but the face would change.
That's interesting.
As a child, you kind of go, oh, what are you doing? Like, you ask the question.
How'd you do that?
Yeah, like, why, what in, you know. And of course, for me, I was informed telepathically, you know, it's a, you know, a vibrational communication. And for me, it was a case of, you know, well, this was me in my other lives. So this showed me that here was a soul, but this soul also lived this life, but lived multiple other lives at the same, you know, going back. So for me, in my book that I'm finishing writing just now, I refer that as facial recognition, you know, so they would change face. And so as a child, I would see multiple different things going on. And I just readily accepted it, I have to say. It was something that was very natural to me. And my mum knew that I had this gift, so did my father, so did the rest of the family. And, you know, I had really fond nights. My father was a master upholsterer, and he had created this, I know it's going to sound really corny, but he'd created this big sofa because there was 5 children, 2 adults, and he'd created this big sofa, and it was turquoise blue, trimmed with white trimming. I always remember this. Fond memories. And he, you know, obviously the rest of the family, because I was the youngest, they would all go off out, and of course it would be me and my mum would be sitting, and she had this big coal fire, and then she would say to me, you know, look in the fire, you know, she says, tell me what you see, Hen. What do you see in the fire, you know? And of course now I know that she was using that as a focal point, you know, for me, because like looking into a crystal ball, a packet of crisps, you know, whatever, you know, read a few things. And as you do, you know, we even read Salt one night in the Hilton. So
oh my gosh, I wish I had that kind of support, like really.
oh, it's good fun as well. And of course, I'll tell you a story about that when I finish this. It was so funny. And anyway, you know, my mum would tell me to look in the fire. And I started to see faces and people, and I would, you know, I would be describing them to him. And then at one point I turned around and there was my mother crying, you know. And I was like, oh, why are you crying? They're all smiling, you know, because all these faces were smiling, you know. But then as a child, I didn't realize I was describing all my mother's my ancestors as well, but she knew them, I didn't, you know.
Oh, wow.
Before, you know, and it wasn't until years later, my mother, obviously when I was old enough to understand, my mother had these albums, photograph albums, which were over 100 years old, and it had some of the very first brown and cream pictures, you know, like when they used to do the old and of course I was recognizing these faces, and I was like, oh, I saw that person, you know, and who is that person? Then I find out it's my great uncle, you know, or it was my great aunt.
That's amazing.
My grandfather, and all this kind of stuff. And my family was quite wealthy, you know, in the day, going back in the ancestry. So this was how these photograph albums, you know, were there, and my mother treasured them, you know, her whole life. It was just amazing. And it was interesting because she bound them in leather to protect them.
Yeah.
And when one day I was meditating and I said, you know, I really need to understand all my family, because if family come in, if I'm at a church and somebody's giving me, I'm thinking if I was getting a message, not me giving the message, if I get a message, I need to know who my family is.
Yeah.
And in this meditation, this book was hurling towards me, you see, and I could see it. It was this beautiful red leather trimmed with gold, and the side panels was all gold, and you know, like where the pages were, it was all trimmed in gold, and a nice reading round the front, and it this lovely kind of a bit like my backdrop just now, you know, echoed out like this, you know, in gold. And it wasn't till my mother passed in 1980, and my brother brought out these photograph albums, and he said, oh, they're so old now, even the protective binding is peeling away, you see.
Yeah.
And I have to say, they were so protected that nobody got to touch them, you know. So, and of course, he started to unwrap them, and the protective leather that my mother had put around them came off. And there was the front cover I had actually saw in my meditations. I'm nearly crying.
Oh, wow.
It was just a moment, you know. I always believe that you've probably had plenty yourself, and everybody that's watching has probably had plenty of moments where you go, oh, and you could never, ever, you know, erase that. You can never erase it. It's always going to be there with you, and it's always going to bring that energy, you know, that you had in that moment. And there was the album that I could see hurling towards me, you know, as this 30-year-old, you know, when I was about 30, yeah, asked that question. And it was just so empowering for me. So my childhood, as you ask about, is kind of it's a bit like when you get older, you then go back and you say, this is why that happens, you know, and you can connect up all the dots, you know, experiences. So I always say to people, you know, like when they say, I don't really remember much about my childhood or you know, stuff like that. And I say, wait till you get another experience, because that's when the memories flood back in, you know, because it's a bit impossible for us to remember every single thing. But we're here to talk about past lives and hypnosis as well, like through the power of your subconscious, every single aspect that you have experienced in your life, every tiny little thought or tiny little gesture or every word that you've experienced, said and heard is registered within your subconscious. And
here, I'm a little nervous about that.
Well, you know, it's been proven that you can, you know, I've done it myself with clients, you know, where you can regress them back where they have forgotten. You can induce safety amnesia again, because they have amnesia, but you can induce safety amnesia and then explore the forgotten memories. And they can tell you everything, and even right down to, I mean, I had a girl who was attacked, and she wanted to remember who her attacker was, because it was more frightening for her to not know who her attacker was,
of course,
than to know who it was, you see. And I understand, you know, that's very understandable, you know.
Having been attacked, I can totally, completely relate with that.
She's more or less frightened of every person instead of just, you know, remembering one person, you see. And even right down to that, we even got the registration of the car that he drove and everything, you know. It was absolutely amazing. And the police definitely got involved with it, and you know, it went to trial, and he got caught, you know. So it was amazing. But your experiences, whether you remember, even as a child, even as a baby, you know, your subconscious remembers every single thing. And there's some people who will say that, you know, you don't really start remembering, like children only experience. And that's true, that, you know, children's memory banks are experiential. That's why they soak up everything. They're just like these knowledge sponge, I call it.
Yeah.
Bringing everything onto them. But if you want to, and most of the time, by the time of age 7, they have forgotten, you know, most of the stuff that has actually gone on before it, not unless there are some, what I term as entanglements, of
Yeah.
where there's necessary memories, as I call them, that will stay with you prominent in your grid of thought. So most children will forget, you see, and then in regression you can actually take them back, you know.
Right.
And again, they'll sometimes they'll even speak. You know, they'll be
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
yeah, mommy, you know, and you're like, wow, you know, that's so cool, you know, but because
Yeah.
they're back as the memory of their
So,
childhood.
so surrogacy versus regression, what is the biggest difference? I mean, because you told me what the biggest difference is, but I want everybody who's listening today to know, because
So the biggest difference of retrieval from past life surrogacy versus past life hypnosis is that past life hypnosis is the person is regressed. So you would have to go through a sequence. You know, you would have induction. So you would have induction, then you would have your deepening processes, then you would have a safe place built in. You would have your ego enhancing scripts, you know, to enhance the confidence of the person. And then, you know, you would go into deepening processes. Now that starts from, could be anything from limb rigidity right through to magic carpets, looking in the mirror and seeing different aspects of themselves, you know. So there's at least 30 different deepening processes that you can take a person through.
Wow.
We tend to only take them up and lead them in through various different ones until you get a really deep response, you know, like the hand dropping, you know, and depending on how it flops, you know, is how deep the person will actually be, because you can't fake it, you know. We would know.
Yeah.
The therapist would know. So that's your deepening process. And then even to go into past life, you then have to take them through what we term as various different processes. So you've got the Christos process, or you've got the tunnel process. You know, you can have the counting backward process. You know, there's many processes. But the deal is that the person has to be deep enough to actually go into the past life. And even when they're in the past life, it will be depending on how deep they are in an altered state to how much information that they will actually give up.
Huh.
Okay, so that's that way. Past life surrogacy is, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, as you know, of 60 aspects of hypnosis. So I've done the whole spectrum of degree in hypnosis. So, but past life surrogacy is that you don't do nothing.
Oh.
You do absolutely nothing. And I take 3 breaths and I connect to the specific life that is holding you back in this life.
Ooh, I'm so.
I experience for you, because I'm your surrogate. So my energy
Okay.
is altered to sustain your energy for longer periods of time.
See, now we both are mediums, and we both have experience with that. We both, you know, do card readings and that kind of stuff. This stuff is a whole other world for the both of us.
It feels like we're going into the abyss. Like, and there's a real. It's great. I don't mean to make it sound negative. It really feels like we're something. Like I'm walking into an infinite room.
So I wanted to share with you that my mom years ago took hypnotherapy classes. She just took a couple of classes. She took her certification to do the basics, you know.
Okay. Yes.
And so for me back then, I was like, that's it. That's as far as you go. And then I met you. Okay, now I'm hearing about all this interesting stuff, and I'm like, Okay, so what else do I need to know?
You know, you've got where hypnosis is concerned, and also where surrogacy is concerned, I have to say. So both of them match for me. You know, whatever I can achieve with regression, I can achieve with surrogacy. So with regression, we'll just separate them that way just now. So with regression or hypnosis, I mean, you've not just got regression, you've got progression, and then you've got timelining in the present day. So you can timeline this life, you know, into segments, you know, for the person as well. Or you can go to progression, meaning that you go to their next life.
Wow.
So
I have a question. I've been lately, I just turned 33 a couple months ago.
oh man.
That's
Yeah.
a good year, 33.
It is very good. But I've been feeling this thing, and I don't know quite how to explain it. The only way I've been able to explain it is like it's like nostalgia meeting longing, like this deep, sad longing for something that I mean, I just don't know what it is.
Okay.
Because my childhood wasn't the saddest childhood in the world, but it wasn't particularly fun either. I had a lot of trouble, had learning disabilities and stuff, and got bullied, and was always very much a loner. I had friends, but they weren't really friends. They were just kind of dingbats that I hung around with. And I don't know, like I started thinking I'll catch a memory of something, because I always tell my first memory that I have in life is being in a laundry basket full of clothes right out of the dryer, and my dad had this Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote Looney Tunes blanket, and it was old and worn, but I loved the feeling of that warmth and the softness. And it's the first memory it's when I go and think what's my earliest memory, that's my earliest memory.
He still puts soft stuff
I
on.
still-
was going to say, do you have a snookie? That's what we call a snookie. Do you have a snookie?
I don't. This is my snookie. But this right here.
I'm a this.
It's a good this.
So here's the thing that what you're expressing is what we term as memory. It's memory suppression to memory release. So there's certain memories that you've suppressed, and the longing is normally something that you are trying to go back to. Now, longing memories are this nostalgia that you talk about, you know, is normally that your higher consciousness, you know, is what I see as your super consciousness. So for me, you've got ego, subconscious, and super conscious. That's the way I tend to describe, you know, the three minds. So
okay.
But your conscious mind is now catching glimpses of what's coming from your subconscious mind. But they can be driven by your superconscious mind to remind you that you have a task to do.
That's interesting. I feel like I'm constantly in id. I am pure id. I am constantly craving the basest of urges, you know, food, shelter, warmth, and I do feel like I repress a lot of things. Like,
okay, so you're probably in what we term as past life syndrome.
Okay.
So past life syndrome is basically the syndrome of the past life. And normally what happens is that you'll start to experience like that memories, you'll dream, or you'll start to draw certain vibrations towards you. And hear how I say that, vibrations towards you, meaning people, situations, like blankets, like, you know, like, oh, I like that, oh yeah, oh, I want more of that, you know, or you're going to be in a sense what we term as in a state of alert. So when you go into a state of alert, then what happens is that you start storing food, or you start collecting. You know, it's the hoarder. You know, they need to hoard things, and you don't know why you're keeping it, but you're going to keep it anyway, because one day you might need it. You
Yeah.
know?
Like
and it can be
I mean,
falling
my
to
spirit has gone through
pieces.
some horrible war or something where like
depression.
depression, yeah. Where
And it's, you know,
anything.
so, and you can't surmise. The one thing that I have learned is to never surmise what a person's past life is about. I've had so many surprises of, of doing surrogacy work and even regression work. And you know, you think, wow, that was nothing to what I thought it was going to be. So so for me, it's a bit like remote viewing. You remove the thought process because you don't do any analysis until you've got, you know, the evidence in
Right.
front of you.
Because the thought that the idea of thought or thinking is like it's limiting because
Yeah.
It's limiting because it's only it actually limits you to your knowledge base.
right. Because the way I read, she calls me a medium. I choose not to use that word. I say I'm a seer. Well, really what I'm doing is remote viewing in a sense.
Oh, yes and no, but you're also talking to spirits and literally having conversations with them.
Yeah.
That's mediumship, darling.
Yeah, I guess you're right, ain't you?
That's another topic for another book project.
Yeah.
I could dive into that with you, but I'm like,
Yeah.
past life surrogacy versus past life regression.
It's right. I
Fair
mean,
enough.
mediumship is a whole other world. It's
Oh,
a
you
whole
know,
other world.
every level of complementary world
Yeah.
it has, you know, wow, it's a topic that you can just dissect. And I love doing that. I love this. I love dissecting it and moving in and pulling it apart,
Yeah.
seeing what's in there and see how it ticks, as I call it, and then see if you can put it back together again. And if it comes out the same way or out different, you know, so yeah.
You come up with a whole new thing.
You know, going back to where you were, John, is that, you know, with past life syndrome, is that there is a calling within you to address deeper issues. So those deeper issues isn't always necessarily negative, because they can be a memory of where you have had a wonderful gift, say, but all of a sudden you're hiding in this life because you took the blame for something in a past life that wasn't yours in the first place to take. So that's called past life, my God, misplaced karma, past life, misplaced karma. You know, so the misplaced karma is that you have taken on board somebody else's karma, so it's misplaced, it's not yours.
Yeah, I always feel like I have this pressure on my shoulders, like the weight of the world on my back. I always have this feeling, and it's like I can't relax.
It takes responsibility for everything.
Yeah, so this is what we term as a syndrome. The syndrome is that you've taken the blame and now it's, you know, it's all you. And in this life, it's the stress is all on you. You know, that's the whole process. And in some instance, you know, where past life surrogacy is concerned, you know, when I have entered into the past life and, you know, I start to live that life, you know, the process for me here is, it's not that I go in and spend a whole lifetime reviewing your life, you know, because that's too long. So what happens is my energy has been primed, if I use that word, to seek the one that is actually holding you back. Now, once you find that life, which happens within 3 breaths for me, is that I then also am taken to the points that the karma, negative karma, or the misplaced karma has actually taken place, where it's actually formed, you know.
Was this something that you had to like learn how to study it, or is this something that came to you naturally and then you just honed your skills over time?
No, this was, as I said, as a child, I would see the faces change.
Yeah.
So I accepted that. And then as I got a bit older, when I got into probably my 1820s, you know, right about that time, can't remember exactly the date that it started on, but it just happened, you know. And of course, then I started to see it pass me like a moving picture, you know. And then that moving picture would stop, and then I would. It was like, the old-fashioned where the cinema things, and you would see it going all the pictures would, and then you make it go faster, and it looked as if the people were moving and things like that. I can't remember what it's called.
Dialograph, something like that.
Yeah, it's like that. Only it was in Technicolor, you know, and it would slow down. It would slow down at certain points of the life, and I would be able to see it, and I would understand it. Don't ask me how.
It's like on your phone. If you take a video with your phone, and you can stop and edit it.
Yeah. So in this, it wasn't me that was controlling it. I was just seeing it, and then it would slow down for me. I wouldn't say slow down. Let me see this a minute. I would just let it happen, and then it would slow down at precise points of their life. Then I was able to, and then I would hear things as well, and of course I would be able to understand it. Then I would just relay it to the person. So that happened, and that stayed like that for a long time until about 28 years ago. And one morning I was getting ready to go to an exhibition and got in the shower as usual. I love showering, I have to say. That was one of my favorite things. I would always, like, as my body was being washed, I would imagine the lights of the universe coming down and cleansing my aura and my chakras, you know, as my body was being. So that was my meditation time, you know.
I thought I was the only one that did that.
No, lots of us do it. So
it takes so long.
But what happened was, all of a sudden, this mass, it was like a mass amount of energy, and I was like, oh, and I could just, it was as if everything was electrified, you know. I was like, whoa. And I saw this, how can I call it? Like a multiplex, you know, screen.
Oh my gosh.
Like, wow, you know, and I thought I need to pay attention to this because, you know, this is big, you know. I thought this is important, you know, so I need to pay attention because of the way the energy was, you know. And so at that moment, you know, I was looking, and then my guide, you know, came forward and said, you know, it's time now. And I was like, whoa, I'm paying attention, right? Okay, it's time, right? I need to, you know, look at what's happening. And then, you know, I you know, it was like, look and learn, you know. And I thought, right, okay, I'm paying attention, you know, and I'm still in the shower, you know, and you know, and then I see myself on screen, and I was like, oh gosh, right, okay, there I am. And then I see this person, but the person didn't really have a face. You know, it was just like the silhouette of a person sitting there to let me understand that someone was there.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, right, nothing new about that, you know. So I'm missing something here, you know. And then my guide said, this is all about you taking up your rightful place now, and this is what's going to happen, and took me through the sequence of me taking 3 breaths. So now I'm watching myself, how can I say, in a sense, perform on this television screen. So I'm watching myself do it, you see. But as I watched everything happen, my guide was giving me like this running commentary, you know, of this is what you're doing now, and this is what's going to create this, and now that will create this, and this will be full experiential, you know, for you. where you know your energy has been altered to now sustain this, and so I went through everything, you see, and of course when it came to the point of me looking at this silhouette, and I know it's going to sound a bit bizarre, but to me it felt like a real person, you know.
Because it was.
And yeah, you know, it was, you know, there, but they were faceless, so there was no identification to them. But the whole thing felt so real, and showed me the past life scenario to the past life, to the present day scenario of this person. Now, to this day, I don't know if that was a real person and it was happening to a real person at that time, or it was just the scenario was created to teach me, you see. But anyway, once it was all done and I recognized and I understood the importance of the past life and the clearing of it, because the past life in surrogacy doesn't just clear for the person who's receiving, you know, the reveal. It actually clears for the perpetrators, for anybody who was involved in it. Everybody gets this forgiveness, and that's why it's so empowering, you know, for the person to move forward in their life. So now I'm still in the shower, and my higher consciousness says, so it's time now for you to take up your place as a surrogate.
That's so cool.
Wow. Do I get a recap on that? Because, you know, I might want to hear all that again, you know.
Maybe rewind.
Yeah. And he said, no, because it's now in you. It's always been in you. This was why one of the reasons why you came to Earth, you see. And I said, okay. And he said, and today you will have the opportunity to begin. And I went, okay, cool. Thinking, wow, you know, I really did. In that moment, I was like, wow, what, today? Right, okay. So I gets out the shower and I'm now shouting to my husband, Alan, you know, and I'm going, I need a poster, I need a poster. And he's like, what, you need a poster? He says, we have no time because we have to go, you know. He says, we're going to be late. I've been in there twice the length of time that you normally take, you know. And I'm like, oh, you don't understand. I need a poster. And he's got, there's some A4 paper there. And all it was all past life surrogacy.
Wow.
That was it. 3 words, past life surrogacy. We got to the exhibit of where we were exhibiting that day, which is a mind, body and soul exhibition. And, you know, all my other posters were all laminated and, you know, nice graphics on them and everything. And here was this white piece of paper, A4, you know, saying past life surrogacy.
We can relate to that one.
Pop it up on the wall. It didn't even get a board. It just got popped up on the wall. And we carried on, you know, with the day. But then what happened was the next thing I knew, you know, I was speaking to this client, you know, the customers that was there, and Alan came across and whispered in my ear and he goes, there's a girl over there that wants one of those things.
Those things.
I says, one of what things? I said, you know, what things like that? And of course, it was that past life thing that you told me about this morning. So obviously, I was telling him as we were driving to the place. Of course, I just went, oh, really? Wow. Right, okay. Tell her I'll be there in a minute. and yeah, just put 2 chairs. Now, my thought went back to the TV.
Sure.
So 2 chairs, that was it. So I'm like, okay, mimic it, 2 chairs, right? So 2 chairs. And he says, right, okay. And of course, the 2 fellows who run the body and soul, exhibitions, I knew them well. And they had given me a side room. And he said, look, if you want to use that, just take your clients in there if you want to, blah, 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 So I finished with speaking to the client, and I says to him, I says, right, okay, I'm going to do this, right? And honestly, I started to walk towards that room door, and it wasn't the fact that I was saying, will I be able to do this, right? I could literally feel it, like it was like the intensity of what I had in the morning, was there. But as I was walking through the threshold of the door, there was this moment in me that said, oh my God, am I going to do this? Like there was that moment of questioning, and I got in, and it was in winter, it was November, and snow everywhere here, cold, very cold.
Yeah.
And of course, at that point, I got in, and here was 2 chairs. I had put the 2 chairs there, and the girl was sitting on the chair, and I said to her, and I noticed that she was wearing this really heavy coat, and her scarf was a big woolly scarf, but it was like wrapped over her shoulders, and then it came up, it was like a bee's hive,
Yeah.
It came from her neck down like this. And she was like 20 if she was a day, you see. And I remember looking at her and saying, do you want to take your coat off? And she went, no, I'm okay, like that. And the room was a little bit chilly because I hadn't been in it, and
Yeah.
lots of windows, and there was no blinds on it, so the cold was coming off the glass. And I said, oh, okay. I said, so, and I remember just going like that with my hands and going, so you're here to have your past life revealed. And she went, yep, one of those things that was on that poster. I said, okay, and she said, yeah. I said, you sure you don't want to take your coat off? And she said, yeah, I'm sure. And I said, oh, okay then. And she says, so what do I do? And I said, oh, you just sit there, I says,
Yeah.
you just sit there.
I love that question. What do I?
Yeah, and I said, and all you have to do is just listen to what I have to say, you see. And I said, and I'm going to take 3 breaths, and then I'll tell you your past life. And she went, oh, cool, And I said, right, fine. So I sat there and I looked at her, and I thought, okay. And I could literally, it was as if my breath had been taken over.
Yeah.
And I could feel myself breathing in, although I knew I was breathing in, but I could feel the breath go in. And I took this 3 breaths, and wow, I fully went into this girl's past life, and I literally felt my body shape change.
Whoa.
And even my features, I literally could feel change.
Whoa.
And I felt every single pain and torment, and torture that she had gone through. And she was oh my God, Jew. She was a Jew, Jewish, and she'd been in a concentration camp with her. She'd been taken, I won't tell you the full story.
Oh gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, so it's in my book. So she had been taken, they'd been captured, well, not captured, but they'd been taken out of their home. To there. Anyway, her and her mother had tried to escape. she couldn't run fast. She was so weak, and they get caught again. And because they got caught, I entered into her life at that point, because I can go back and I can go forward when I was in there. But when I entered into her life, she was tied by the wrists from an A-frame in the middle of the courtyard. And her mother was underneath her. And there's a real story that goes along with it. So I'm kind of really cutting it short here. You know, so there's a lot that goes on, the entanglements that take place. Anyway, her mother and her mother underneath. Sorry, I should have actually said, which is really important. My first words that came out of my mouth, even I couldn't believe what I said.
Oh boy.
And I paused for a moment and thought, did you just say that? Really? You know, I thought, stupid, absolutely stupid. But my words were, your father in this life is not your blood father, but he's actually your mother from your previous existence.
Whoa.
I never knew this girl. I hadn't even seen her before. We were at an area that we were, in a sense, unknown in at that time. And
I'm a little blown away.
I kind of paused for that moment, because I was like, oh my God, did you just say that? You know, there is absolutely no comeback from that.
No way.
Absolutely not, you know. But anyway, so her mother was lying underneath her as she was tied to this A-frame. And her mother's knees had been smashed with a hammer because of her trying to escape. They said that she would never escape again because she'd have to crawl, you know. And her arms had been dislocated from the shoulders. The soldiers had used her as a swing and had jumped on her and basically dislocated her arms. So there was a lot of pain and suffering and everything else. But anyway, I'll let you read the whole story, because there's a lot that goes on.
Oh my gosh.
But the gist of the story is that there's a lot of, they think they're going to be saved, and then things happen, and then other things, you know, and then there's moments of so much tenderness, so much, you know, because the mother really, she felt weak because she wasn't strong enough, that she couldn't carry her, you know. That's how they were caught. And the daughter then felt bad because, you know, she couldn't run fast enough, you know, to get away. So there was a lot of stuff like that. And then anyway, this point comes that there's a whole bunch of things with other people in the camp and everything else. And anyway, they were taken to this room, this building. They'd heard stories about this building. When people went in there, they didn't come back, but they didn't know what happened to them.
Oh gosh.
So they dragged the mother across the courtyard. But as they cut her down, because she had been up there for days, and because her arms were dislocated, she obviously fell onto the ground. There's a whole other stuff that had happened to them. But
God.
she couldn't get up because her legs had been dangling in the air for days and weeks.
Smashed by.
And of course they were screaming at her to get up and start walking, but she couldn't pick herself up because she couldn't use her arms to lean on the ground, you know, to help herself up. And her mother, because they were shouting to her that they were going to shoot her if she didn't move. And of course her mother was calling to her, please get up, you know. as they were dragging her, but then she was being rifle butted because she was speaking and she wasn't supposed to speak. And if they spoke, they get, you know, treated badly, you know, in that way. And then this one picked her up by the hair and put her on her feet. And so she was wobbling behind, and as I say, they were taken in, and the mother was just dropped on the floor, and she was there. And of course, now they were in this room themselves, and it becomes so emotional, you know, because, you know, here they are, they're in this tenderness, you know, together, and the mother, you know, is telling her to come closer to her, you see. And so she's trying, she's now on her knees. So she's going across on her knees. And just as she gets to her mother, you see, and she feels so bad because she can't even lift her arm, she can't lift her arm or her hand to even touch her mother's face. And this is all she wants to do, is just hug her mother. And she can. And just as that moment, the door opens and all these other people are being pushed into the room. And before they know it, the room is so full that people are now standing on her mother. And she said, you know, she bends down and she's trying to, this other woman helps her to her feet, you see. And her mother starts to scream because people are standing on her legs and, you know, and all sorts of stuff like this. So she bends down and she screams to her mother to put her arms around her neck, and her mother's saying no because she knows she's in so much pain. And she screams to her mother, she says, just do it, do it. And of course, the mother wraps her arms around her neck, and the daughter lifts her mother up bodily from the floor with these shoulders that are just so painful. And at that moment, they literally come face to face, you know. And the mother tells her daughter how much she loves her, you see. And she says, no matter where you are, I will find you. So her mother passes first because they dropped poison into the chambers. And the mother falls first, and the daughter thinks, you know, it was her fault. So she takes on board the misplaced karma for her mother and her death. You see.
Oh God.
Now there was a father and a brother, but that's part of the story, and you can hear all that part.
Yeah.
But the moral of this story is, to get to this point, telling you all this, is that as I go into the death experience, that's me, I come out of it, you see. And I look at this girl and she's in tears. And I think, oh my God, this is too much. This is too much, like that. But as I'm thinking that, she's now shouting at me, will it help him? Tell me it will help him. Will it help him? And I was like, it's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, help who? You know, because now I'm thinking, who's she talking about? Who is she speaking of? You know? And she's gone, my father who you said is not my biological father, but my mother, will it help him? Like that. And I'm like, wow. And then of course it comes back to me what I had originally said to her right at the very beginning. And I thought, oh my God, yeah, I did say that, you know. And I said, whoa. And so I could see she was getting quite hysterics. And I said, right, okay, listen, right, hold on, just take a breath and we're going to talk about it. Because that's what we do now, we talk about it, you know. And so she calms down and she says, but I need to know, will it help him? You don't understand. She's saying to me. And I says, well, try me. tell me what it is. And she says, and then I looked at her and I went, but wait a minute, I have to ask you a question first, you know. I says, then I'll answer anything that you want to ask, I'll answer. I says, is your father your biological father? Like that. And she says, no, that's why I need to know. It's going to help him. And I says, but why does it need to help him? And she says, you don't understand. She says, my father is lying in hospital after having both his legs amputated from the knee down last week because of this mysterious illness.
Oh, I have chills.
Yeah.
I have chills.
My stomach at that point was like, oh my God, you know, and of course then I said, yes, that is what and then I told her. I literally told her, because she then said, you know, at that moment I could see she was all hot and flustered now, you know, and I says, listen, take that scarf off, you know. So she unwraps the scarf, she puts the scarf over, she takes the coat off, she puts it down, she turns around, she's standing, because I'm now standing because she's standing. And I'm looking at her and she went, yes. And she had both her shoulders were disfigured. One was down this side, which was quite severe, and this one was down, but not as bad as this one. And she says, you have just explained to me why I am like this. I was born like this. And she says, I have never understood why. She says, you have just given me the explanation of my entire existence.
I have chills all the way up and down my body right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of gobsmacked. Holy moly.
So, and then she starts to tell me that her father is not her biological father, but she believes that he was her father because he treated her the same. And she said that everybody who knew them, when they found out that he was not her biological father, they were like, I've never known a father and a daughter to be so close and to love everything about. And all she could think about in that moment was her past life reveal going to help her father, who was her mother from a previous existence.
Chills.
And that whole family had incarnated back in. And only this time round, she was still the daughter, her brother was still the brother, and we knew from the information, which you can read about in the book, the information that the brother was the brother from the previous, you know, incarnation. But the mother and the father had swapped roles.
Wow.
And why was that?
Wow.
Because the father didn't know how to look after the son as good as what the mother did. And the mother felt she wasn't strong enough as a father to be, you know, so that she could have carried the daughter, you know, for
right.
And all the other things. So when you look at past life surrogacy in the detail, and believe you me, I've done thousands of these, and they are all just as powerful as that one.
Wow.
You did mine. She did it for me, Laura.
Oh,
Laura's chiming in.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that. She did mine.
Okay.
It was amazing. It's absolutely incredible, worth it. Worth it.
That's amazing.
But the power of release is in the bearing witness to the true events that took place and not what. So this family had literally mimicked the trauma of the past, and this is where it reveals things that can be physical conditions, proper physical bodily conditions, in other words, illnesses. It can traumatize in emotions. It can traumatize in your thoughts, in your abilities. I've seen people who are amazing artists that would be scared of a paintbrush and scared, the bristles of a paintbrush, that were absolutely terrified of that feeling. See how John's talking about the feeling, and he's like, wants to move into it. Terrified of the paintbrush. And when the past life was revealed and they understood what happened, then they were able to pick up a paintbrush and paint as if they had done a master class.
I kind of wonder if it's something like that with me and certain textures, like certain textures that they just like make my skin crawl,
And that happens, like mushrooms. So to understand the whole power, and what I've done with the book is that I've basically told the stories of the past life and then bring the two lives together. You see, just exactly.
I have one question.
I want to know the name of the book.
Yeah, what is the name of the book? I'll give you a plug.
So the name of the book, it's not published yet, but the name of the book is Past Life Surrogacy, Cutting Edge of Karma.
When it comes out, I want a copy.
Oh, please, yeah.
I will do. I'll send you one. It's going to be published by Hay House Balboa Press. So
okay.
It's contracted to them.
Cool.
I love all their stuff.
Yeah.
So my question, so basically that pain and suffering, that doesn't just fall into the receptacle of history. That is, that pain can actually have a physical
manifestation. Yes.
Manifestation, that's the word. Yeah.
It's a physical manifestation because you can have physical pain.
Sure.
The doctors will call it phantom pain because there is no condition there.
Right.
And there's a video. I don't know if you've seen the video on my website, but there's a video of a live session which is on my website. And the girl, it wasn't done for publication. It was a private session. But afterwards, she had asked me why I didn't advertise. Didn't have it advertised better, was her words. So I went, okay. But I says, well, not everybody wants a past life plastered all over the internet, And so we had a chat afterwards, and she allowed me to use her past life. And it's actually up there. The whole session is up there to see. So you should go and view that, because that is. But make sure that there is a caution at the beginning of it. It has a caution because it's very graphic. So there's nothing held back. It's quite graphic. And
that's right up our alley.
I know what we're doing later. Date night. Watching Joanfrances do her thing.
Make sure that you have a cup of tea and a box of tissues, because you might need it. You might need it. I've known people to text me and say, this is my 4th cup of tea and 2 boxes of tissues, and I haven't got to the end date yet. So I don't know what they were doing, but
I want to tell you, I've gone to people before who obviously are not so great, to talk about past life stuff, because I'm always in the past life a queen or a princess, and I feel like, and then the next person was like, King of Arabia or whatever.
Yeah, and everybody's related to Cleopatra. Everybody was yeah.
And I'm like, not everybody was a queen. Some of us were peasants. Some of us
definitely not. I actually know probably about 90% of the ones I've done that people were just, when you say ordinary people, but they didn't have titles, they didn't have.
Right. Yeah, that's what makes sense.
And that's
they were individual people, but their storyline is incredible because you mimic, when you hold on from the past life, you mimic into this life, and you will also draw situations to you that have occurred in the past life. And you'll see that with that video that's up on my website, because that girl struggled to put her business together. She had the know-how, she had everything, but the one thing that she couldn't do was sell herself. Okay?
So
And I'm going to let you watch the past life, and you will see why.
We're totally into it.
I am. So I have one more question. So
I want to get it done.
I know. So to be diametrically opposed. Okay, so the pain and the stuff, we know that can have physical manifestation here in the here and now. But love and redemption and forgiveness and all those things can equally have an effect on.
Oh, definitely, because this is
not all doom and gloom.
It's part of your perception in this life, okay? But you are being fed. See, my sometimes my phrase is whose life are you living? Whose life are you living? Because, the thing for me is that, are you living, John, are you living that life? Or are you living the life of who you were in a previous existence? So when you look at whose life are you actually living, it's still you, because it's the power of your soul.
Sure.
But those incarnations, come with you. The good, the bad, and the ugly all come with you.
Is it possible for more than one soul to be in one body, like multiple souls?
Yes, I love this. Right now, we're going to talk about this. So, the thing for me is I actually just done a past life surrogacy the other day, and it was kind of unbelievable because it meant, that the person was actually having a triple life in this life. They were parallel living, one soul having 3 experiences at the one time, and that's just amazing when that stuff happens, And so you could be living a parallel existence, meaning that you're incarnate and you're having. Some people will call it a twin flame. So your twin flame is really you. Now bear this in mind. So it's different, it's like twins. Twins are the one soul. Okay? Triplets, one soul. Quadruples, one soul. When you are born from the same mother at the same time, then that is the one soul that is incarnating. Your task is so that you need multiple experiences to complete the task. Okay.
So Octomon, the lady that had 8 kids, they're all sharing one soul.
Sorry, say that again.
The Octomon, the lady that had 8 kids.
Yes, they're one soul.
All 8 of them got one soul.
So it's true then.
So 7 of them can be a prick, and then one's a good guy, so they all go to heaven. I'm sorry, I'm kind of being a dick here. I don't mean to be.
Don't disrespect somebody else's children.
I'm just running the scenarios in my head.
Yes.
Well, it's like my mom and my
I was
aunt.
raised Catholic too, so I'm curious about this shit.
Now, and then, sorry, on you go.
My mom and my aunt, they're twins, but they're fraternal twins. Does that make a difference?
What do you mean by fraternal? Tell me what.
They're not from the same.
I'm thinking of culture here in other countries, so I want to.
That's okay. So what I mean is that they're from 2 separate eggs. So they're 2 different eggs.
Oh no, they're not. Yeah, they're an individual soul. Yeah. If there's 2 eggs, it's like when they come from one egg, one egg, one sperm. So
right.
But that's we have a different name for that here, actually. What did you call it?
Fraternal.
In vitro is what it would be now?
No, in vitro is the process by which you can get pregnant that has nothing to do with...
Octomon.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So when there's actually 2 eggs, it means that there is two souls, because each egg is an individual soul. You know,
that actually gives me relief, because my aunt has done some horrendous things. So,
right.
and my mom is lovely. So I'm I'm really happy to know that that's
Yeah, it's
they're
two
separate. To be honest with you, that gives me comfort.
Makes sense.
And you can also have what we term as the parallel world experience. So you could be here and your soul is incarnate on another dimensional world. So you could be and this is why some people go off and have these experiences, and they say they went to another world and they saw themselves.
Explains me.
That's it's parallel world existences. So
cool.
It's really cool, you know.
It is really cool.
Yeah, you know, and again, you know, the one thing for me is for people to remember is that, you know, the power of past life surrogacy, because that's what this podcast was about, versus hypnosis, that both will get there, but it depends on the road, and it really depends. And I have to say this with the greatest respect to every clinical hypnotherapist on the planet, you know, it really does depend on the work that the therapist can actually do with the person, and how willing the person is to be hypnotized. Because, you know, I always say to people, I ask them this question, and I say, okay, you know, if they say to me, you know, I quite fancy hypnosis, and because I see auras and chakras, right, you know, I tend to go, oh, hell no, no. You know, to myself, I'm like, oh, hell no. God, you're too much in your mind, you know, you're critical, you know, you're in critical mass of your life, and you want to be hypnotized. And have you got a lot of money to spend, you know, because, you know, it's going to take you a long time, you know, to get there. And I tend to say to them, you know, I ask you this question, you know, when you're in the past life, and if you reach a critical point and you were going through pain and trauma, how would you experience that? You know, how would your body experience that? And they went, oh no, I don't really want to do that, you know. And they kind of give you this face of, no, you know. And you say, past life surrogacy would be the best road for you. All you have to do is just sit there, you know, like that's it.
Yeah.
Just sit there and listen, you know. And that's the wonderful thing for me is, here's the other aspect of this is that I had been doing past life surrogacy probably, you know, what year was that? I'm trying to remember, because I became a clinical hypnotherapist in 1996. Okay. And I've been doing past life surrogacy before that. And I'm trying to think, you know, what part was I doing, or was I a clinical hypnotherapist? But anyway, the thing for me is that when I look at the broad spectrum of both of them, both do good. But as I say there, it really depends on whether you're prepared to go the distance. In other words, do the sessions, you know, even do the homework, because, you know, people want to be regressed and they want to go into deep, deep stuff. You know, I will give them recordings to listen to, you know, which is just deepening processes. But it's so that by the time they come back to me, you know, they've gone like another 30% more than what they were the time before, because they're all recorded for deepening and going further. And the next time that you're hypnotized, you'll go even deeper again, you know, far deeper than you are in this moment, you know, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on. On the clinical side, you know, there's a lot of process. And I know that some people do bog standard scripts. I never use a bog standard script. I always script for the person.
I love that.
Yeah, that's why the sessions have got to be, you've got to look at the person's life. You've got to tailor it. That's why for me, that's why it's more expensive to go down the hypnotherapy route.
Sure.
You know, if you come to me anyway, you know, because I script it solely for you. But at the finish up, you will get more out of it. And you'll spend, believe it or not, less money and be satisfied than going somebody with a bog standard script, you know.
So I'm wondering, and I can't help but wonder, and I know it's probably not fair to ask, but I'm gonna ask, is it can you see like who I was in a past life?
I do see past lives without doing surrogacy because I do past life readings, you know. The thing for me is I laughed earlier. I didn't laugh at you. I was chuckling.
Sure.
You were giving John a row for bringing in remote viewing and mediumship, you know, at the same time. Well, believe it or not, I really truly believe that all is vibrational work.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we can utilize, you know, our gifts in many different ways, you know, and you know, so you could be doing partial remote viewing, partial mediumship, and I'm teaching a course right now, and it's all mediums. It's on it, and I'm teaching them how to actually use it for better mediumship as well as, you know, remote viewing, and they're hitting targets. It's only 2 weeks in, and they're hitting targets already, you know. So it's cool stuff, you know. It's just because of how I learned naturally, and then I went and worked with people in the USA who worked with the government, who had retired from there, and then I learned their system. So I've now combined my system with their system, and
That's heavy duty.
so it's
Swimming.
really cool stuff. So don't ever really separate things, because things should never really be separated. You know, if you're teaching a Reiki course, you teach a Reiki course. You know, if you're teaching a mediumship course, you can teach a mediumship course, but there's diverse in mediumship. You know, Reiki, there's diverse in Reiki as well, but we would normally go, like the ones I do anyway, is like Ishui Reiki, I do Karuna Reiki, I do Amarin Reiki, and then I do dimensional Reiki. But if somebody comes to me and says, I would like a Reiki treatment, and I say, have you any preference? And if they turn around and say, no, just you do whatever you have to do because I just want to get better, you know, it gives you an opening to use either all 4 or one at a time, you know, and see, or vibrationally find out which one would be more suited to the person, because you know, you look at a Shui Reiki and it's magnetic, it's earth energy, it's really good for grounding, pulsation of the heart, you know, things like that. Whereas you look at Amra and it's wind and water, it's all about movement and freedom of emotions, you know. So then you look at Karuna, it's heart compassion. You need the heart align, you give them Karuna energy, you know, it's the power of compassion and forgiveness. You look at dimensional Reiki, you talk about the 10th dimension, you want to raise your vibration, right? What is like that? Yep, she's done the course.
Course about it.
Right up, you know, into the higher dimension.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. Go ahead.
And then you learn the power of the soul's journey. And that actually even gives you even more understanding of why certain people do certain things, or why certain people need healing in certain ways. And it gives you so much more freedom for the power of the soul.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why am I attracted to dark, horrible shit? I am attracted to the darker. I know, and it's, look, I'm not proud of it, but I have since I was a child, I have been attracted to just scary stuff. Anything that's spooky, anything that's paranormal, anything that's dark, sinister, the dark side of human nature.
And then you ended up with me.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite.
We are such a fucking opposite.
That's because your poles apart, you know. So the fact they talk about opposites attract, and that there is a good
Sure.
part of that there. But when you're attracted to something like that, John, it either means two things, you know. So when you're attracted to it, do you like it?
I find it interesting. I don't know if I necessarily like it. I'm not pro serial killer.
That's the difference, you know,
Yeah,
that
but it's
terminology that you just used. So if you are attracted to it because you're intrigued by it or you're interested by it, then there's a reason why. So in your past existences, you may have been a Dark Lord, and that's why you're interested in it.
I'm
Or
what? I beg your pardon?
you may have been a Dark Lord. Please don't take offense at that.
Oh my
No, it makes
goodness.
sense.
I'm going to call you Vader from now on.
No, don't do that. No name calling. No name calling.
Joanfrances, I'm just teasing.
Keeping Raz.
So
I do. Yeah.
it could be that, or you could have had some form of experience with, you know, the dark energy, and this is why you're now attracting, you know, in this lifetime. It's basically so you will investigate, and then by investigation you will be able to bring forward really the true essence of what actually happened in the past.
It feels like I'm like a detective and I'm kind of uncovering my own grave or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And that is what we're all doing. We're all uncovering. We're all detectives of our own soul, you know, and we're all uncovering. And the more you're attracted to something, or something continuously comes into your life, you know, you've probably heard this a million times, you know, when somebody says, you know, why does that always happen to me? You know, that phrase, if that phrase has been on your lips recently, then you really do need to investigate, you know, into the reason behind it.
Had it happened about 2 hours ago. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And
bullshit.
The more that you get deep into it, you know, and this is sometimes why you need. And I've worked with some of the best mediums and psychics in the world, and they say, you know, this is why you're bound to confidentiality. But they say, I could never go to anybody, or I could never reveal this, you know.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, because they think I'm looking, you know, for Jay. Oh, I worked with, you know, blah blah blah, you know. But
we got a lot of.
That's your integrity. You know what I mean? That's the power and the integrity of who you actually are. But as I say, I've worked with a lot of different people, and some of their past lives have been so sinister, you know, literally so sinister. But when you look at the threading from that life to the present day, and the work that they're doing in the present day, far outreaches the work that went on as a sinister.
I believe that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and that's why I say, you know, there's good there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, and sometimes it's just there's some downright ugly stuff that's going on in the world.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And this is also where, for me, I never lay judgment. You know, there is never a judgment where these are concerned. In fact, I'm always a bit amazed, you know, just the mimics that has gone on is just unbelievable. And that's why the book is full of those stories. You know, they're full of people's past lives. They've been transcripted, and it means that, and then we tie them together, and then I've put a little thing at the back of each chapter, and, you know, cross-referencing off, you know, the different things, and then I get you to investigate something as well, you know, so it's all part of the journey, and it's just, you know, it's incredible. It really is.
I love it. I love it.
But what you're saying, Holly, sorry, because
No, it's okay. I was just saying I love this so very much. I'm also checking out the time, and I know for you it's like what, 4 a.m?
Oh, is it? Oh my God!
Yeah, we went long tonight. I'm glad we did, to be honest.
Sorry.
No,
Oh, no,
it's-
not at all. Not at all.
We've been over here like
I'm not in my element. I'm just talking now.
we've been over here like whispering to each other like we've got to do this.
Yeah.
Like this is something
This
we
is
need
so
to
cool.
do.
Yeah, we're very much into it.
I did want to just very quickly open up the floor and see if there's anybody who has any questions. I see Laura's like
Yeah,
chomping at the
Laura,
bit. She's like,
waiting.
yes, please.
Go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I didn't tell you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what's funny is I don't know if you caught out of the corner of your eye what was going on here, but my husband literally
I didn't.
put me in the box. Like I was stuck like this because of how he was laying on me, distracting me the whole time you were talking about John's past life, because they're very similar. I've got a lot of information for you, John. I just channeled a shitload for you. So if we can get on a call sometime.
We'll set up a
But
separate
yeah,
call.
that was crazy. But oh my gosh, no, that was funny because Joanfrances, he was totally distracting me the entire time, but I still heard what you said. So
Wow.
thank you.
Oh,
Because I
well,
know it pertains to him, and
the
it just
distraction-
randomly ended up like squishing me, and I couldn't focus, like I couldn't pay
I
attention.
don't know anyone else who does that.
And
does
he
that
can't hear
work?
what's going on. I've got headphones
Oh.
in.
Squishing. Yes.
He couldn't hear anything that you're talking about. However, because I have headphones in.
Right.
So he just, yeah, he's very psychic too. He just doesn't know it. He doesn't
So
believe in psychics.
He may have been
Sounds familiar too.
because
They're
of the
very alike.
vibration. Yeah, because of the vibration. Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe
amazing.
it's a past life.
I see Royden's blinking over there. What's up, Roy?
Not much. Just recovering from last night. Got caught up in an interesting room on Clubhouse again on energy communication.
Oh, see, I thought you might have been tossing a few back, Roy.
Not just yet.
He's recovering. He's recovering now.
I'm totally kidding. I mean, Roy's a dear friend of mine, so I'm just
I love Roy.
No. Yeah. Okay. So, any questions on the past life surrogacy, past life regression? Anything else?
I have a million questions, but not enough time. Not enough.
No. And I honestly didn't realize I hadn't even been looking at the time. So
I can't.
I didn't until about 10 minutes ago, and I looked at it and went, oh man, we went long.
We did. And
Yeah,
Joan,
so-
you're such a trooper. You guys, she's in Scotland, and so they're, what, 5 hours, 6 hours
5
ahead?
hours, five at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so this started at 9 p.m. our time, which is like,
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah,
So
Joanfrances.
it's 3 a.m., so it's 3:30 just now.
Oh, Lordy.
jeez,
Is it? Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3.
something like that.
Oh yeah, 3:30. It's
Oh,
3:30.
You're such a trooper. I so appreciate you for doing this.
No,
And I've learned so much. My brain is full, so like
Yeah, I gotta compartmentalize everything, but whoa.
Yeah.
tomorrow I might shoot you a few questions because my brain is like,
Oh, I'm interested. Yeah, this is incredible.
it's one of those topics that you. That's why I'm writing the book.
right, because this is one
And
of
the
those.
book ain't out yet, but what's it again, called again, Joanfrances?
Oh, the book is going to be titled "The Past Life Surrogacy: The Cutting Edge of Karma."
Excellent.
I'm so waiting for it.
Yeah, I can't wait for it myself. Everybody,
Oh, we're in editing at the moment, so hopefully it's not going to be too long. So
awesome possum.
a couple of months, you know.
That's amazing.
Well, I say,
Anyway, thank you guys for having me on.
oh, Joanfrances, anytime you want to be on, we'd love to have you again.
Yeah, I had to practice a few nights to stay up late, you know, just
Well, but you know what? You've got to get us back and have us get up early or something.
I was going to say that.
There's just nothing.
The thing for you is my podcast like 8 p.m. which is 3 in the afternoon for you. So that's,
Ooh, that might just work.
yeah, 3 in the afternoon. So I almost did it.
Oh, don't do that. You're going to lower her frequency.
Anyway,
All right.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Joanfrances.
Thank you,
Everybody.
who come on and supported. Fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
I
And
would love to get a copy of this.
well, I'll send it. I'll put it out there within the next couple of days. On
Oh yeah, I know. I forgot to put record on. You should have recorded it, but haven't you?
I've got it recording, and then I usually put it up on YouTube, and then
That's cool.
yeah.
Meh.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Love you all.
Bye, everybody.
Now.
thank you for joining us on Psychics and Swears Ghost Stories. We ended up talking about past life surrogacy.
We didn't do the ghost stories again this week, but fuck it, right?
You know
Are
what?
more interesting.
Honestly, Joanfrances's story about the past life, that is
The best, one of the best stories I've ever heard.
that we don't need a ghost story after that.
Yeah.
That had all the good.
Ghost stories,
bad,
most stories.
Yeah.
I could give you a few ghost stories.
Oh, I'm sure.
Not tonight. Not tonight.
Yeah.
And
That's another week.
I've actually got a few pictures of real ghosts.
Ooh.
I'm interested. Yeah, you're gonna have to come on again, Joanfrances. You're gonna have to.
I'll dig out my pictures and then we can do screen shares and all that, you know.
That'd be
Anytime.
amazing.
100%.
Cool.
That
Okay,
would be
go.
amazing.
Right, bye.
We're
All
going
right.
to. Y'all have a good night. Be safe.
Okay.
Take care of each
Have a
other.
wonderful night. Thank you, everybody, for coming on.
Bye, guys.
Watch the
Good
video.
luck.
Video.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night. Get some rest. You savages.